No set of descriptive statements can entail an evaluative statement without the addition of at least one evaluative premise. To believe otherwise is to commit what has been called the naturalistic fallacy. What we'll be doing in the next couple of minutes is to set a counterexample to this thesis. We need to take a statement or statements which are purely factual or descriptive and show how they are logically related to an evaluative statement. These statements don't necessarily have to contain the word is. Consider the following series of statements. Jones uttered the words, "I hereby promise to pay you Smith $5. Jones promised to pay Smith $5. Jones placed himself under an obligation to pay Smith $5. Jones is under an obligation to pay Smith $5. Jones ought to pay Smith $5. How does the first statement relate to the second statement? I don't think anyone would object that uttering the words in quotation marks is the act of making a promise, and the promise is an obvious consequence of the meaning of those words. So, I hereby promise is a paradigm device in English for promising. Let us state this fact about English usage in the form of an extra premise. Under certain conditions C, anyone who utters the words, "I hereby promise to pay you Smith $5, promises to pay Smith $5. What conditions? All those conditions, those states of affairs, which are necessary and sufficient conditions for the utterance of the words to constitute the successful performance of the act of promising. Let's add an extra premise. Conditions C obtain. What is the relation between the next two statements? Well, promising is by definition an act of placing oneself under an obligation. So let's add a tautological premise. All promises are acts of placing oneself under an obligation to do the thing promised. Then follows the relation between the next two statements. If one has placed oneself under an obligation, then other things being equal, one is under an obligation. So let's add two more tautological premises here as well. Other things are equal. All those who place themselves under an obligation are, other things being equal, under an obligation. At last, what is the relation between the next two statements? Analogous to the tautology which explicates the relation of the third and fourth statements, there is here the tautology that, other things being equal, one ought to do what one is under an obligation to do. And here, just as in the previous case, we need some premise of the form. Other things are equal. We have thus derived an ought from an is. It must be pointed out also that the ought is a categorical, not a hypothetical ought. The last statement does not say that Jones ought to pay up if he wants such and such. It says he ought to pay up, period.